Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to part 9 of my Britain and Picture series. Britain and Pictures, it was a series that was started in 1941 by the publishers Collins. And it was done during wartime, specifically as a type of propaganda type publication to bolster morale and celebrate English culture in all its facets. And it covered everything, like the whole 9 yards, basically. Culture, just pure to culture, historical, and there was approximately 132 volumes made. They were done on sort of wartime paper. The quality isn't the greatest, as if you've been following, you've seen sort of issues with flaking from the jacket, the dust jacket, or the book itself. But it's a very nice set, and we've been going through them, and we're nearing the end. I think there's about maybe, including this, might be another 3 or 4 episodes or parts to go, because I do have more, but there are a lot of duplicates. So, and there might be more hidden around in places, but I'll discuss that at the end, the last part. So today we've got English Women by Edith Sitwell. She was part of the Sitwells with 2 other brothers. Quite prolific and what's the word? Odd, I guess is a good one to use. I kind of like them. They're eccentric family, but quite interesting. And this is from 1942. And this actually has an inscription dated September 2nd, 1942, which is kind of cool. Let's see what it says on the flap here. Edith Sitwell is acknowledged by the best critics to be one of the finest woman poets in this country has ever produced. I like her poetry, but interesting. She has also gained a reputation in prose as a brilliant and very individual writer. Yeah, individual, diplomatic. She has the art of saying much in very few words and has a perceptive eye for what is unusual and significant. In this book, Miss Sitwell writes of English women in general and also gives a number of brilliant sketches of many famous beauties, travelers, actresses, and authors. Some treated briefly and some at length, from Queen Elizabeth to Virginia Woolf. These character sketches can be favorably compared with the most famous pen portraits in English literature. And as I didn't say at the beginning, they class these as books. On some of the earlier ones, they do mention that they are essays because they are basically 40 pages long. They usually start, page 7, so they go to page 48. But then they're illustrated, so there's probably like 30 pages at the most of, and maybe even less, of essay, of writing. And I'll mention it again because the overall general editor was W.J. Turner. He did at least 1 volume out of this. And I'm not sure if he was the one that was writing the copy for the dust jacket flap or not. Probably not. Most of them will. Oh, this is the first one we've seen that actually has printing on the book itself on the back. I'm glad I looked at this because most I haven't shown every back, but this is the first one that I've noticed that actually has the printing on it. Usually they're blank. And to go through the usual format that I've been doing here, and just showing mostly the colored plates. Mary Sidney, Countess of Pembroke, 1561 to 1621. She lived 100 years? Wow. Oil painting by Paul Van Sommer. I sort of question that. I would have to check that because as we found throughout looking at these things, there's no real consistency to how they title or put the caption on for the illustrations. It's a very nice picture. It's Sarah Jennings, Duchess of Marlborough, 1616 to 1744, oil painting by Sir Godfrey Kneller, or Kneller. Again, they sometimes give just surnames for the artists, and sometimes they give the birth and death date for the artist, or sometimes there's no date of the painting, like this one. There was no date of the painting. Was it, I question, because obviously this is days pre-internet, and it was done by a company called Adprint, and they may not have had all the information, so they had an archive of illustrations, and they just pulled from that archive to a large extent, or the author suggested titles, pictures to put in. Here's Queen Elizabeth in the hunting fields, woodcut from G. Turberville's Book of Venery, I think it says. It's hard to read. 1572. So they put the name of the book, but that's a nice woodcut. Here we go. Mrs. Sheridan, Mezzotint by Gainsborough DuPont, after Thomas Gainsborough. Quite sure that would have been. Well, actually, mezzotint, so it might not have been color. Mary Wollstonecraft, Godwin, oil painting by John Opie. Opie, that's the one. Sorry, I'm referring way back to another one that we had, School Children or something like that. It was Opie that I was trying. If you follow this through, by this time probably somebody has left a note on that to say I was wrong. I don't think I said Opie. I think I probably said Odie or something like that. But they collected nursery rhymes, children's nursery rhymes. They're published they were published Oxford, but they also did some really neat books of school children at play and things like that. And I was referring to that one time. Here we go. Lady Hester Stanhope in Oriental Dress, pencil and watercolor, sketched by Sir David Wilkie, 1841. Elizabeth Fry, 1780 to 1845, watercolor by George Richmond. Nice little silhouettes every so often. I do like silhouettes. And it's just nice to pop them in various places. Oh, Jane Welsh Carlyle. Like they're little, like each little section of them. Miniature in Ivory by Samuel Lawrence. A prolific letter writer, her and her husband, Thomas Carlyle. There's like 40 or 50 or maybe 60 volumes. I've got the first 12. They're very, very interesting. Grace Darling and her father saving the shipwrecked crew, September 8th, 1838. Watercolor by William Bell Scott. Very dramatic painting or watercolor. Yeah, Ellen Terry, oil painting by G.F. Watts, 1864. And she was an actress connected with, memory fails me, but the theater where Bram Stoker worked, and the main actor there had a lifelong affair with her. Yeah, memory is just bad. Everybody will know who I'm talking about, and I'm sure many will put into the comments, which is fine. It's just memory has failed. I know who they are and the story behind them, but Christina Rossetti and her mother, chalk drawing by her brother Dante Gabriele Rossetti, 1877. That is amazing if that's just chalk. Wow. Ooh, Virginia Woolf, charcoal drawing by Francis Dodd. Never seen that one before. Let's look at the backs of these as well. This is British Mountaineers. F.S. Smythe, I think that's the pronunciation that it would be for the spelling. British Mountaineers. Let's look at the back. Yeah, you see, that's the normal, I think, for them. British Mountaineers was published 1942. Mountaineering is a sport which makes a particular appeal to our national temperament. It not only furnishes a supreme test of physical prowess, but more than any other sport calls forth the qualities of high courage and daring that are inherent in our race. Mr. F.S. Smythe here tells the story of the sport of mountaineering from the early days of the Alpine Club. He describes the sensation caused by Albert Smith's ascent of Mont Blanc and tells the fascinating story of the conquest of the Matterhorn in 1865 by Whymper and Hudson. I guess that's the pronunciation, Whymper. A short-lived triumph ending in disaster. Mr. Smythe describes the magnificent climbing now to be found in the British domains and colonies and his accounts of the latest Himalayan expeditions, in almost all of which he himself took part, brings this book up to the present day. Mr. F.S. Smythe is well known as the conqueror of Mount Kamet and was a member of the 3 Mount Everest expeditions in 1933, 1936, and 1938. In addition to the Himalayas, he has made many climbs in the Alps. Another lovely panel across the top. A view of Mount Fuca with the Rhone Glacier. Watercolor by William Paris, circa 1770. See, they got a date roughly for that. So that's interesting. The Luchstein, not pronouncing that correctly, issuing from the lower Crittenweld Glacier, colored antiquette by C.M. De Curtis after G. Wolfe. I'm having trouble reading this small print. Club room at Zermatt in 1864, engraving by Edward Whymper and engraving by Edward Whymper from Scramblings Amongst the Alps, 1871. Crows, come here. Engraving by Edward Whymper from Scrambles Amongst the Alps, 1871. Oh, those are really nice. And that's as well from... oh no, that's Ascent of the Matterhorn by Edward Whymper as well. 2 stages in the Ascent of Mont Blanc. Color prints by George Baser. 1804 to 1867. Very nice. It's a silent film called, there's a couple of things by G.W. Pabst that are really, really cool. It was a bit of a craze for silent films for a while in the late 20s to have mountaineer films. And it had, there's some of the White Hell, I think, of Piz Palu, and then there is one on Mont Blanc as well. They're very dramatic silent films because they're filmed on location doing an ascent. A view of Brett Lowen colored antiquette by C.M. De Curtis after G. Wolfe. The Glacier de Bossons Camoin, watercolor by John and then Warwick Smith, 1786. I like this one. If you could see down there, there's some cattle, I think it is, with the glacier. I wonder if that glacier still exists. To what extent it still exists. The Valley of the Juma, showing the two grand peaks of Bander Punch, drawn by J.M. Fraser, engraved by R. Havel and Son from Fraser's Himalayas, 1820. There's a sheep there. The British Theatre, Bernard Miles. The Globe Theatre on the cover. Again, same. And yeah, blank on the back. So I haven't looked at every one. I wonder how many actually have printing on like that. I'm assuming they probably went through a period that they decided to do that. This is 1948. After 3 years of Pembroke College, Oxford, and a year of schoolmastering, Bernard Miles went on the stage playing 5 walking on parts, all strongly and enthusiastically differentiated. Okay. Walking on parts. That's interesting. I would have thought it would say walk-on parts. And one of the messengers in Beloy Holloway's production of Richard III at the New Theatre in 1930. After that, he spent 7 years in provincial repertory as scene painter, stage manager, property master, stage carpenter, and small part actor. From there, he went to the Players Theatre, and from the Players Theatre graduated to Herbert Ferrien's Little Theatre Reviews. Since then, he has become famous. London audiences will remember his Iago in the Old Vic wartime Othello, and audiences everywhere his many fine screen performances. Oh, okay. Bernard Miles. Okay, yeah. Mr. Miles knows the stage inside out. He has a unique collection of theatrical books, portraits, and autographed letters, and is altogether a perfect author for the book on the British theatre. Those who know him as an actor will find, as they would expect, that his writing has the same qualities of humor, understanding, and originality. Christmas 1948, so contemporary inscription. A performance at the Country Barn Theatre, perhaps the witches scene from Macbeth, colored antiquariate by W.R. Pine, after John White, 1788. So you're saying perhaps, like obviously they didn't know, but you know there should have been some provenance of, well, not provenance so much, but you know the subject matter of that somewhere. But you know they may have been rushing to get these out as well. That's why I'd love to get that. There is a history of it. I'd love to get a history because all those little minutiae I find interesting. David Garrick and Mrs. Pritchard as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Oil painting by Johann Zoffny, circa 1768. Very dramatic poses. Yeah, these are broken up into sections like Elizabethan stage and so forth. So the interior of Drury Lane Theatre, detail from a watercolor by Edward Days, 1795. That's just detail. I wonder what the whole painting would be. Probably has the whole stage in, and maybe across the whole the whole sort of panorama of it. Well, this is the sort of famous Ellen Terry as Lady Macbeth oil painting by John S. Sargent, 1889. Laurence Olivier as Romeo oil painting by Harold Knight, 1936. There's no way I would guess that was Laurence Olivier. Again, I sort of question, did they get it correct? It might be. It's just, I would never guess that was Laurence Olivier. British Sport by Eric Parker. Chipping away at that. There we go. Yeah, blank again. Oh, this is one of the earlier ones. At least I'm assuming these are the earlier ones, because there's no listing on the back. The listing will be in the back flap. This must be, unless it's a later printing, it must be 41. Eric Parker is the editor of the Lonsdale Library of Sport, and also the distinction of being a past editor of The Field, which is the most important journal in the world dealing with country sports. He was a King's Scholar at Eton and took his degree at Merton College, Oxford. There are many sportsmen who are superb exponents of one particular game, but know nothing of any other. Mr. Parker is not this kind, and therefore is exceptionally qualified to do justice to the subject of British sport in this widest sense. In this book, emphasis is laid on the universality of sport in England and on those special qualities of sportsmanship which enable the Englishman to get such enjoyment from a day spent in the open air, whether it is a successful day's sport or not, and such pleasure from actual playing of the game, whatever the result. Mr. Parker is the editor and author of many books on sport and country pleasures. His own chief interests lie in cricket, fishing, and gardening. See, again, this is an earlier one, and they're referring it to a book. Again, like there's not a consistency throughout the series, which makes sense with over years and things, but to change the wording in here in the flap and so forth, but the way the convention of captions for the illustrations, you would have thought would be consistent. There might be consistency if you looked at them as when they were published, but doing this way. It's very interesting to see the differences in it. This is going to have hunting sports in here as well, not maybe all hunting sport. In full cry, colored engraving by W. Howitt. So actually, fox hunting. And this one is probably grouse shooting or woodcock shooting, color engraving after Samuel Howitt. What was that? Was a Howitt on the previous one, wasn't it? W. Howitt. Spelt the same, yeah. So relation, I assume, or spelling mistakenly. Like I wouldn't doubt that there's a lot of errors in these. Jockeys at the start, oil painting by A.J. Mannings. So we're getting a little different sport here now. Really interesting colors, especially the shadowing and the muscles on the horse here. Interesting. The Hambleton game, colored engraving and of an unknown artist. Hamilton game. Oh, okay. They must be talking. I think it's cricket, but it must be a certain place. See, that's lost on me at the moment. Gentleman holding a white horse. Oil painting by Stubbs. Again, I mentioned this before. Look at the neck. Like, I'm sure probably somebody's already mentioned it when I did ask about Stubbs's paintings of horses. Is this specific to Stubbs? If somebody didn't answer before, please answer now again or again, because it's something that I've noticed, and I'm just a casual observer for this. For paintings and that, but I do like I do like that look of the neck of the horse. Oxford and Cambridge boat race, colored lithograph. That's definitely going to be the thumbnail. If I remember it, I think I've said that before and didn't do it. Pair of teal at the edge of the pond, watercolor by Peter Scott. So again, hunting, sport, mixed up with everything else. Oh, this is a nice one. Trolling for pike in the River Lee, oil painting by Pollard. Again, just with the surname. Let's take a look to see. Oh, that's there's do the last two ones here. Golf, oil painting by an unknown artist. The Bowling Green, watercolor by M.A. Rooker. And Battlefields in Britain by C.V. Wedgwood, another historian, well-known historian at the time, 1944. Miss Wedgwood is a historian of considerable repute whose work... Sorry, I just show that. I thought I'd show that. Let's start again here. Miss Wedgwood is a historian of considerable repute whose work on the 30 Years' War is a standard authority, whose scholarly life of Stratford illuminates a whole age, and whose recently published book on William the Silent has already established itself as indispensable to the student of that period. Miss Wedgwood is not only a respected and scholarly historian, but she is also a natural writer. In this book, she has chosen, after a brilliant general survey of her subject, to describe the most important battles which have taken place in Britain. The Battle of Hastings, Edge Hill, Marston Moor, Killiecrankie, Dunbar, up to the last battle of all, the Battle of Britain. The stories of these battles are fascinating and exciting, and the qualities of the great leaders of Harold, Rupert, Montrose, Fairfax, Cromwell, Dundee are freshly presented within this limited focus. Most people have at some time stood on the site of an old battlefield and wished to have a clearer and more accurate picture of the historic events than his knowledge could command. This Miss Wedgwood now makes possible, and the reader of the book will look at Maiden Castle and the field of Naseby, and at all the sites of our historic battles with reawakened interest and pride. I like this one, the way it's written, because I do agree. I think her writing is, I remember reading books on history. I'm not sure if it was the 30 Years' War that I've read, but I might have. But I've read other ones. And it's interesting, it says here, it's a general survey of the subject, and they're not pretending that these are, perfect and, authoritative is not the word, complete, I guess. But it's also talking about, up to the last battle of all, the Battle of Britain. Well, that proved to be not so true. And then, yeah, they're in sections, general survey. So, yeah, the death of Harold at the Battle of Hastings, 1066. The detail of the Bayeux Tapestry. That's, everybody knows that one. Still nice to see. I think Folio Society did something that was really neat. It was like a cabinet. I'm sure it's Folio Society. It's a cabinet. It's a wooden cabinet, like, you know, handmade, I think, as well. And it's got a glass thing. It's maybe 2.5 feet wide and so ever deep. And you got the Bayeux Tapestry on a roll that you can just roll it through. I've never seen it in person, but I saw it somewhere, and I'm pretty sure it was Folio Society. I think it went along because they did do a book, I believe, a limited edition book for it as well. Anyway, let's get back to here because I'm now at 30 minutes. The Battle of Carberry Hill, 1567, colored engraving by George Virtue, 1742. Not very busy, as you would think for a battle, but it must be before the fighting began, I would say. Let's take a look to see if we can jump through a few of these. Battle of Naseby, 1645, color engraving by Dupois after Parvoso, I guess, yeah, 1727. Charles I dictating dispatches to Sir Edward Walker, contemporary oil painting by an unknown artist. Again, like, there's a lot of unknown artists in here, and were they really unknown? Again, interesting questions. The Morning of Sedgemoor, 1685, oil painting by Edgar Bundy, 1905. And last one, View of Dover, 1747, oil painting by Richard Wilson. Very nice. Anyway, I'll see you next time for part 10. Take care, BookTube.